Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
After many decades of ruthless and oppressive colonial rule in the Indian subcontinent, the country attained its independence on 15th August 1947. And India's independence from British colonial rule was memorialized by a very famous speech that was delivered by the first Prime Minister of India, that was Jawaharlal Nehru. Jawaharlal Nehru delivered the very famous speech called Tryst with Destiny on 14th August 1947. He delivered this speech towards the midnight, and as the clock struck midnight, the masses were rejoicing. Cheers spread among the Indian masses because they were now finally free. They were now finally independent of a foreign power's rule in the country. And so the masses were breaking out in laughter and happiness. But you'll be surprised to know that all sections of the Indian population were not rejoicing on the 15th of August. This was not because that India had achieved its independence from colonial rule, but this was because of certain tensions, certain turmoils that the country was enmeshed in. In this series of lessons, we will be learning about some of the very grave issues that India met with immediately after attaining independence. So let us now begin this discussion on India after independence. Before proceeding with this lesson, let me ask you a question. When was Jawaharlal Nehru's famous speech Tryst with Destiny delivered? Was it delivered on 26th January 1947, 14th August 1947, 15th August 1947 or on 2nd October 1947? Well, the correct answer is 14th August 1947. This famous speech called the Tryst with Destiny was delivered towards the midnight. So Jawaharlal Nehru knew how to enthuse the masses, how to prepare the masses for a new chapter that would now begin in their lives, a new chapter that would now define a new India. This lesson will be devoted to understanding some of the grave issues that India met with after attaining independence. Now, the independence came to India at a very high cost, and that cost was partition. Now, during the colonial rule or even in the earlier centuries, India was a subcontinent. But following India's independence, this country now got partitioned. That is to say, Pakistan was now divided from India. So immediately after India attaining independence, it was the Radcliffe line that now demarcated these two new nations. So here and here were the regions of the new nation called Pakistan, in the middle of which fell India. Now, the partition of India has been witness to one of the most brutal periods of history. This is because so many people were suddenly homeless. All these people who were earlier on residing in the Indian subcontinent were now divided into separate nations. Now, many communities were living in India and many communities were living in Pakistan. You'll be surprised to know that during the partition, even the houses of many families got broken up. That is to say, the Radcliffe line divided one house. One part of the house was then in India and the other part now lay in Pakistan. This was what had happened during the partition of India. So now came into being millions of refugees. And these people were all homeless. They had no lands of their own. They were thrown out of their own regions. And so when these refugees were coming from Pakistan to India, there was a huge problem that India was met with. This is because India had to now provide homes and jobs to these refugees. So these people were unemployed. They did not have any home. They did not have any place to live. And when this refugee influx happened, that is to say, when millions of refugees were coming from both sides to India, then India was met with a very severe crisis of providing homes and jobs to these people. Now, another issue that India was now facing pertained to the integration of princely states. In order to understand what was this issue surrounding the integration of princely states, allow me to show you and explain the map of British India. The regions that are marked in yellow color on this map show you erstwhile British India. So these were the regions which were under direct control of British colonial rule in the subcontinent. And the regions that are marked in pink show you the princely states. These princely states were ruled by Nawabs, Maharajas, but at the same time these princely states were not autonomous under British colonial rule. They had to accept the British suzerainty. Now, immediately after India attaining independence, the top politicians of the country found it very difficult to explain and convince all the Nawabs and Maharajas of the princely states to be incorporated into the Indian Dominion. There were around 500 princely states that were ruled by Maharajas or Nawabs. So can you understand how difficult it must have been for the top politicians of the country at that point of time to convince all these Nawabs and Maharajas who were quite dominant to enter the Indian Dominion so that they did not stay as independent princely states. Now, why do you think was the integration of princely states important? Because in order to achieve a unified country, it was very important to have all these princely states integrated into the larger dominion of India. India was also faced with another challenge that came in the form of developing and introducing a new government, a new political and economic system. Because in order to rule any country, any territory, any region, what is required is a government. It is a government that sets out various kinds of rules and policies that govern the lives of the people and the dominion as a whole. And without a government, no state, no region, no country can function properly. Earlier on, during colonial rule, India was divided among the various princely states and the British Indian states. Now, these British Indian states were under the direct control of colonial rule, and these princely states had accepted the colonial rule's suzerainty. So, there was no one unified and centralized government. But at this point of time, when India now became a new and independent nation, it was very important to now institute a proper political system. The Britishers had also drained the Indian subcontinent of all its resources and wealth. And by the time the Britishers left the country, India was brought down to almost nothing. all the resources that the country boasted of in the earlier centuries were drained by the colonial rule. So India had to begin from scratch at this point of time. It was really very difficult to pull India out of the bedraggled economic condition that it was enmeshed in immediately after attaining independence. So this new problem was now posited by the development of an efficient political and economic system for the country. And then there was another issue, that was the promotion of unity. Now in the earlier times, India was divided among several small kingdoms, small territories, and these regions were under the control of their own Nawabs, their own Maharajas, their own kings. And so these regions were not really united in the truest sense of the term. When the Britishers had come to rule the Indian subcontinent, the masses had unified nevertheless. They had unified to fight against colonial rule. Peasants from several parts of the subcontinent, leaders and nationalists from several parts of the subcontinent came together and joined hands in their attempt to overthrow colonial rule. We can see how several nationalist leaders like Gandhiji and Nehru, who hailed from two different regions, came together, joined hands in the Indian National Congress in their fight against colonial rule. But apart from this anti-colonial consensus, there was no binding factor that could hold all the masses together. But India at its nascent stage was going through a lot of confusion and turmoil. And at this point of time, unity was very, very important, because without unity, this country will not stay together for long. Because without unity, all these regions will be wanting to have their own autonomous status. And so this promotion of unity required ending the demand for separate nation from diverse groups. India has been characterized by plurality in the truest sense of the term since times immemorial. In India, people of varying cultures, religions, communities, ethnicities have stayed together for many centuries, and they still continue to coexist even today. But immediately after India attained its independence, all these diverse cultural, religious and ethnic groups were wanting to have their own separate nations. And so unity was now seen as a tool by the top politicians to bring all the masses together. So this lesson introduced us to certain issues that India faced immediately after attaining its independence on the 15th of August 1947. Though the 15th of August 1947 marked an eponymous day for the Indian masses because they were now finally free and independent, this independence came at the cost of a whole lot of things. In a subsequent lesson as well, we will be taking this discussion ahead by talking about how India was trying to cope with all this confusion and crisis that ensued following India's independence. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to learn one-to-one with our amazing teachers, or to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million-plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it's rewarding too. So register for free now.